Hello, my fellow minor league nerds, and welcome to the second episode of my Thorwback Thursday Cap of the Day series. This week's hat is the Jacksonville Beach Sea Birds. The Sea Birds were a very short-lived team that played in the then Class D Florida State League. They only existed for 3 seasons, playing from 1952 to 1954. They were one of 2 new expansion teams added to the league in 1952, and the only one that made it past that season. The hope by ownership was that they would be a good source of entertainment, not only for local residents, but also for tourists to the area. They would play at Greater Beaches Stadium, which was located just over a mile from the ocean. In that first season, former New York Giant Red Treadway was hired to be their manager. They would go on to lose their first game to the Cocoa Indians 6-5. But they would rebound for their first franchise win the next day with a 25-4 drubbing of the other new franchise to the season, the St. Augustine Saints. In that first season, they went 80-56, finishing in second place, 15.5 games behind the DeLand Red Hats. In the playoffs, they would get knocked out in the first round, losing 2-0 to eventual league champions, the Palatka Azaleas. In that first season, they only drew 23,210 fans for an average of 341 per game. When the season concluded, there was some concern that the Seabirds would not be back in 1953. The Florida State League lost both the Gainesville G-Men and the St. Augustine Saints after only 47 games. They were the first 2 teams to fold during this incarnation of the Florida State League. But the team would get a boost when the owners of the Jack's Meat supermarket purchased the team. Upon taking them over, they stated that no expense would be spared to bring Jacksonville Beach a winning team, and they proved that by investing $50,000 into the team. With the purchase, a new 5-year lease with Greater Beaches Stadium would be signed, and manager Red Treadway would be given a contract extension. When the Seabirds began spring training in 1953, 3 black players were invited to try out. If any of them would have made the team, they would have been the first in the Florida State League. Team ownership said, "We're after the very best players we can find, because we want to be in first place this year, not second as we were last year. We hope these men have what it takes." But a day after it was announced, the team reversed course. A meeting was held at the local Chamber of Commerce, which representatives of the city, the Chamber of Commerce, the American Legion, and other veterans groups, as well as local residents, protested against even the possibility of the admission of black ball players in their summer resort town. They claimed this wasn't due to racial hatred, but out of fear that it would affect tourist business. At the same time, though, others said it was only a matter of time until black players would be playing on all Southern teams, but that some parts of the South weren't, and I quote, ready for it. One of the players who was scheduled to participate in the tryouts was Rutledge Pearson, a Jacksonville native who is a local activist as well as a teacher, and who had previously played for the Birmingham Black Barons. Being denied a chance to play for the Seabirds led Pearson to dedicate the rest of his life to civil rights activism. He would go on to be elected the president of the local Jacksonville Beach branch of the NAACP, as well as the Florida State Conference of the NAACP. As president, he supported the civil rights efforts in nearby St. Augustine that eventually led to the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. The all-white 1953 team would start off red hot, playing in a newly renovated Greater Beaches Stadium. But as the season went on, they would cool off and finish in the middle of the pack with an overall record of 68-65, 17 games behind eventual league champions, the Daytona Beach Islanders. Even with the major investment by their owners, the team only drew 17,785 fans for an average of 267 per game, which was lower than the previous season. What made the season even more difficult for the Seabirds was the fact that Henry Aaron was only playing 20 miles away in Jacksonville for the South Atlantic League's Jacksonville Braves. With the team losing money again in 1953 and integration not being an option, the owners demanded concessions from the city. They were looking for the stadium to be rent-free, free utilities, $20,000 worth of advanced season ticket sales, and 500 season tickets at $40 a pop. The city eventually agreed to help the team out by giving them the stadium for $1 in rent for the season, agreeing to maintain the field and the fences. In exchange, the city would be allowed to use the stadium for other events when no games were scheduled. The 1954 season looked to be a bright one for the Sea Birds as they teamed up the Cleveland Indians to become a farm team, and they also brought in former New York Yankee Spurgeon Chandler to serve as manager. With these changes, they were selected as the team to beat in the Florida State League. That proved to be correct as they started off the season on a tear, eventually winning the first half with a 44-26 record. The second half wouldn't go as well as they went 32-37, finishing with an overall record of 76-63. But by winning the first half, they faced off against the second half winners, the Lakeland Pilots, in the championship series, which unfortunately they went on to lose 3-2. They led the Florida State League with a team batting average of .283. Russ Nixon, future manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and the Atlanta Braves, who was actually fired in favor of Bobby Cox in 1990, won the 1954 Florida State League batting title. His twin brother Roy, who also played for the team, batted .324, hitting 4 home runs and driving in 91 RBIs. They drew more fans in 1954, bringing in 22,660 for an average of 346 per game. In the championship series, they only drew 535 fans over 2 games, 8 times less than what the Lakeland Pilots drew in 3 games. Several ticket giveaways were held, as well as special events and performances, but nothing was enough to sustain the team. The Indians would end their affiliation. Not wanting to lose any more money on the team, the owners decided to fold them, thus ending the Jacksonville Beach Sea Birds. Well, my fellow nerds, that's it for this week's episode about the Jacksonville Beach Sea Birds. As always, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe if you would like to be notified whenever a new episode is uploaded. Stay safe, and I will see you next week.